Mr. President, I wonder what you make of the criticism from Democrats that these staff reductions, the cuts that Elon Musk and DOGE are doing are an unlawful power grab. And is there anything you've told Elon Musk he cannot touch?
Well, we haven't discussed that much. I'll tell him to go here, go there. He does it. He's got a very capable group of people. Very capable. They know what they're doing. They'll ask questions and they'll see immediately as somebody gets tongue-tied that they're either crooked or don't know what they're doing. We have very smart people going in. So I've instructed him go into education, go into military, go into other things as we go along. And they're finding massive amounts of fraud, abuse, waste, all of these things. So, but I will pick out a target and I say go in. There could be areas that we won't, but I think everything's fertile. You know, we're a government. We have to be open. And as an open government, I don't know, I guess you could say maybe some high intelligence or something. And I'll do that myself if I have to. But generally speaking, I'll just say go. But he will be looking at education pretty quickly, and he will be looking at military too.
Could you tell me, please, to which branch does Elon Musk belong?
Several hundred people packed the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors room, and about 100 more were in the lobby and couldn't get in. They talked about their fears and the legality of all the changes that are happening.
I've been a federal worker for 24 years. I've been at my agency for that long. And every day for the last week or two, everyone has been scared. Everyone is afraid every day a shoe's going to drop and we're going to get cut.
I think this goes beyond politics. I think this goes to our Constitution, our division of powers, our democracy. I don't think speaking out about what's happening at our agency is political. It's just trying to save our agency and our democracy.
I have received a stop work order. So now my job, which is to advise the House Foreign Affairs Committee and Senate Foreign Relations Committee on the rise of authoritarianism and how to combat it, I'm not doing my job. I'm sitting on my hands all day, watching these things play out in Serbia and Georgia and Russia. This is making us a lot less safe.
Today we got word that supervisors must now fill out a justification form and that there's going to be just a 30% rank and yank of all staff in my agency. And to top it all off, one of Musk's top lieutenants and his wife and young child have shacked up on the 6th floor of our agency and are living there. The hallway's been blocked off with a special access list for people who can't get back there.
Boy. So we have to continue our coverage of the absolute meltdown that is happening over Elon Musk and the DOGE team trying to audit the federal government and expose the corruption of the Democrat Party. Which, by the way, one of the reasons why I find this story to be so hilarious is because the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats, they were mocking the idea of DOGE, right? They were mocking the idea that you could cut wasteful spending from the federal government using Elon Musk and his expertise, right? Because Elon Musk is a businessman and he doesn't know anything about the government. The government is not a business. The U.S. government is too big. It is too bureaucratic. It is too inefficient. And Elon Musk isn't smart enough to understand how to tame the beast of federal government spending. So now, fast forward to DOGE being implemented. These same people are now boo-hoo-wah and cry, losing their minds over Elon Musk and the DOGE team being too efficient, right? Too good, right? They're doing too much, right? There's too much transparency. Again, it's just amazing how that works, okay? The desperation has gotten to an all-time high, including a bunch of Democrat states, attorney generals getting together to try to find some woke activist judge to stop Elon Musk and the DOGE team from exposing Democrats and their corruption, in which a New York judge, an activist judge, did bend the knee to try to temporarily stop DOGE from accessing the Treasury.
In the past week, Elon Musk and his so-called Department of Government Efficiency have accessed the personal private information of tens of millions of Americans and sensitive data about public and private entities, Social Security numbers, addresses, tax returns, and more. This unelected group, led by the world's richest man, is not authorized to have this information.
Breaking news we have on DOGE. This is from New York Judge Paul Engelmeyer in a statement. The court's firm assessment is that for the reasons stated by the states, they will face irreparable harm in the absence of injunctive relief. That is both because of the risk that the new policy presents of the disclosure of sensitive and confidential information and the heightened risk that the systems in question will be more vulnerable than before to hacking. This question of sensitive information to me seems to be a thread, whether you're talking about FBI agents who are worried about having their names released, whether you're talking about the Treasury Department and all of our potentially sensitive information. Once it is out there, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? Desperation from the Democrats at this point, right? They're relying on the courts to fight their battles because there's nothing else they can do, okay? They can't do anything at all. And I don't think that these court victories are going to last that much longer, because I don't think that these individuals are doing all the things that Democrats claim that they're doing, okay? They're not stealing your data. They're not cutting off grandma's social security check. They're not doing those things. I think what they're actually doing is that they're figuring out ways to upgrade government systems and to make the government more efficient. Yes, and they are exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse that the government is spending money on that taxpayers do not want to fund. And this is just, again, a bad look for the Democrats. And they're just too stupid to realize that their opposition to the will of the American people is not going to make their party more popular, right? It's not going to help revive the dead party, okay? So as the Democrats try to fight against the will of the American people, you have the mainstream liberal media. They are hyperventilating and melting down over the DOGE employees themselves.
I want to know who are these young, highly intelligent, highly motivated zealots following them into these buildings and shutting off payments to schools and Head Starts. I want to know their names.
Well,
I want
to see they're trying to, the local officials are trying to make that official. The newly installed Trump are threatening people for naming their names, just so you know. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, but they can unmask CIA officers who put their lives in harm's way to try and keep our Americans safe. I want to know who their names are, and I want to see Democratic governors saying, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to use the full faith and to the letter of the law to put you folks in prison. I think what you're doing is trespassing. I think this is a coup. And be clear, just because the new insurrectionist who was elected, I don't believe this is legal. And I'm going to hold the people accountable who are trespassing and part of a coup accountable. To just sit back and say this is horrible and this is unlawful, we need to go gangster here and say, look, we are not negotiating around this stuff. This is illegal. This is a coup. This is the unlawful seizure of power. We are not going to engage in these bullshit, ridiculous arguments over, Gaza and Greenland. We are going to hold the people accountable. Here are their names. Here are their faces. And we have contacted the local authorities in where these kids live, these young adults, and we are going to hold them accountable.
And the question is, a lot of them are like, what do we do? They're literally asking me, what do we do to stop him? I was like, I just don't. I was like, you actually don't have the means to do so, because these poor people are in these agencies. And when these idiots come in, these children, these arrogant little pricks come in and say, we're going to call the federal marshals, or the president has ordered you to step aside. They kind of have to, you have to be resistant and be walked out by security. And then security doesn't know which one to listen to, right? Essentially.
I'd like to see all, whatever it is, 48 or 49 U.S. senators and any Republicans that want to join. I'd like to see a couple hundred members of Congress go to the fucking building where this is and demand to go in and physically stop this and let them arrest you.
And, of course, they can't keep big balls out of their mouth.
Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls. Big Balls.
Big Balls, who worked for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online, Big Balls here that Katie's talking about. A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls. So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about Big Balls, Big Balls, Big Balls in charge of American air traffic control?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, the liberal media has not been able to convince DOGE to get rid of Big Balls. And I don't even think it would matter if DOGE was to fire Big Balls or Big Balls was to resign, because you could just replace Big Balls with these nuts. So with that being said, apparently the federal government employees are not having a good time dealing with this reality of the DOGE team coming in and essentially embarrassing them, right? Humiliating federal employees, because not only are these federal employees facing the prospect of being fired, but they have to justify their jobs, right? They have to justify what they do, their existence, to the DOGE team, which again includes the 19-year-olds like Big Balls. So imagine being a federal employee, a grown-ass man, having to justify your job to a 19-year-old named Big Balls.
I was nervous and reticent to come up here and speak just for retaliation purposes. I just wanted to share some things that are going on at my agency. In the last week, we had Elon Musk in our building, and after he visited the building, he called for a 50% cut of the entire agency. My colleagues are getting 15-minute one-on-one check-ins with 19, 20, and 21-year-old college graduates asking to justify their existence. Supervisors are being told not to tell their staff anything, withhold information, and today we got word that supervisors must now fill out a justification form, and that there's going to be just a 30% rank and yank with all staff at my agency. And to top it all off, one of Musk's top lieutenants and his wife and young child have shacked up on the 6th floor of our agency and are living there. The hallway's been blocked off with a special access list for people who can't get back there. Queer and trans folks of my agency are being doxxed in public, their lives threatened.
Good to meet you, Senator. So, my name is Connie Rice. I've been in Leesburg well over 30 years, raised 3 boys here, all Eagle Scouts, Marine veteran. Page 5 of Project 2025 describes me as a pedophile, a pornographer, and a child abuser, and suggests that I should be put to death. Page 5. I need to know that there's not going to be death camps. I seriously need to know that there's not going to be death camps. Back to the federal employment. A friend of mine is a transgender PhD, brilliant, authority in cybersecurity. Today, out of the blue, she was told to renew her security paperwork. First question, gender history. First question on an SCI. So what looks to me like they're going to fire her, say she lied on what her form. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do, right? But obviously, since they scrubbed the T from everything, even the State Department came back and put LGB travel out and took the T off. We need to know that they're not going to kill us. There's people making plans to run to Canada. We don't know what to do. That's all I got.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, right? That sounds like a humiliating experience, right? To have to justify your job and what you do to some 19-year-olds, that's wild, right? That is super wild. Yo, this timeline is amazing. Yo, I cannot believe the world that we're living in right now. This is awesome, right? This is so awesome. So, with that being said, you got federal workers. They're upset, right? Democrats are, everybody's upset, okay? But I think that the American people are not upset, right? I think the American people, okay, understand that our government is bloated and that we really do have to solve this debt problem, right? We have an issue with this country when it comes to spending, and reducing the waste, the bureaucracy, the bloat of the federal government is the first thing that we have to do in order to accomplish trying to get this country back on financial track. But again, the problem is that Democrats think that it is justified to do things with U.S. taxpayer dollars, like, for example, spend $20 million sending money to Iraq for Sesame Street, right? Sesame Street in Iraq. And they're trying to justify it, right? They are justifying this as a necessary use of taxpayer dollars. This is what they're boohoo-whining crowd about.
Is funding Sesame Street a judicious use of soft power?
Well, Michael, the way you put it is the way I hope folks considering your poll today will think about it. This isn't just funding a kid show for children, millions of children in countries like Iraq. It's a show that helps teach values, helps teach public health, helps prevent kids from dying from dysentery and disease, and helps push values like collaboration, peacefulness, cooperation in a society where the alternative is ISIS, extremism, and terrorism. And to your point, it's pennies on the dollar. The U.S. Department of Defense has an annual budget of about $850 billion. USAID was spending about $30 billion. It is a small proportion of our total federal spending. And as Joe and I would often say, it's not just soft power, it's smart power. Let me leave you with one other quote, Michael, if I could. Jim Mattis, who was a 4-star Marine Corps general and Trump's Secretary of Defense in his first term, in a hearing back then said, if you slash development and aid spending, then I'm going to need more bullets for our troops.
Wow. So, again, you have Democrats essentially justifying sending $20+ million to Iraq for Sesame Street. And this dude is just telling you why. He's telling you why. It's propaganda. Well, we want to influence the values and the culture there, right? And that's what it's about. It's all about propaganda, okay? Trying to control foreign governments. You're not doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're doing it as a psyop, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to stage a psyop on other groups of people, right? That's what they're trying to do. And this is what they're fighting for. This is what they're fighting for. So, again, the issue is that Democrats think that we can just continue to spend money like this into perpetuity with no consequences. And that's just simply not true, okay? Even when confronted about the debt problem, the debt issue, which is part of the reason why DOGE exists, again, just listen to this Democrat once again fail to come up with any real solutions for solving the problem or to engage with the argument in any substantive way. Take a look.
Half the country wants to see a reduction of the size of government. We tried it the conventional way. 15 years ago, it was called Simpson-Bowles. It never even got to a vote in the Congress. So what do you say to the people who, they might be unsettled about this approach, but they like the work being done?
Everyone likes the idea of cutting the federal bureaucracy and cutting federal spending until it impacts them. And when Elon Musk said he's going to chainsaw the federal government and take true $1 trillion out of spending, I'm dying to see where he's going to cut spending that won't impact average Americans. USAID, as you just said, Michael, was an easy target because it mostly impacts our safety and security through things done overseas. But he's now going after the Department of Education, Veterans Administration, the Department of Defense, Social Security. He and his DOGE boys, the young men from the Department of Government Efficiency, which is neither a department nor an elected part of our overall administration, they've burrowed into massive federal databases that contain the tax returns and the personal information of millions and millions of Americans. Once payments that go to Americans, like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, start getting cut off, once grants that go to police departments, fire departments, child cares, daycares, and senior centers start getting cut off and frozen, Americans are going to notice and they'll be upset.
Right, but I guess my point is something needs to be done. Michael Peterson at the Pete Peterson Foundation, the folks who are concerned, I think appropriately so, about debt and the size of our debt, he told me in an interview last year that by 2050, half of our revenue is going to go to debt service. I mean, we're facing a catastrophic situation. It's not a sexy issue. It doesn't seem to get the American people fired up. But take our last 30 seconds and speak to the national debt.
So Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, last night released his plan to spend $500 billion more. We have to have offsets and we have to have a path towards balance. It doesn't involve just spending more. It also involves bringing in more revenue and spending less. That's a challenge for all of us, but the way to do it is not with a chainsaw. It's through the regular process of governance.
Yeah, so this Democrat here is presenting a reality that we're faced with as a people in this country. Do we want to just go through the regular government process in which nothing ever happens, right? Nothing ever happens, okay? Or do we want to actually, I don't know, try to force change through using all of the mechanisms that we can in order to cut wasteful spending, because this is an existential problem, right? This right here could actually be the downfall of this country, okay? When you talk about the debt, when you talk about the current debasement of our currency, which is what's happening, when we print more US dollars, okay, we have more US dollars into money supply, is basically around the highest that it's ever been, okay? When you talk about having a debt to GDP ratio of over 100%, okay, and interest payments that could pile up, that could quickly overtake the amount of money that we bring in as a country in revenue. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about getting this country into an impossible nightmare debt scenario that could lead to the collapse of this country. Okay, this has happened before in the past. Empires like the Roman Empire have failed partially due to bad monetary policy, right? That's what happened. They racked up a ton of debt and they continued to debase their currency, their gold currency, in which they would put less and less gold in their currency as a way to basically debase and to print more currency, right? And ultimately that it helped lead to the collapse of the empire. And the same thing is happening to the United States of America, but Democrats don't give a damn about it, right? They don't give a damn. They don't care. They want to get mad at the American people because the American people said, no, we shouldn't go down this path, right? We have to be financially responsible as a country, or else, we're not going to have a country. It's really that serious. Bad money management is how empires collapse, right? That is how empires collapse. We've seen it happen. And I do not think that the U.S. is an exception to that. It can happen. So that's one of the main reasons why DOGE is so important. And again, Democrats standing against this is just them standing against the will of the people. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.